Hey, first intermission, Minnesota Wild versus the Vegas Golden Knights. Brandon Mileski and Pat Micheletti giving you some intermission analysis on all the KFAN social channels through the first period and the second period intermissions tonight. The Wild trailing 2-1 after one period. Pat, Wild outshot Vegas. I know the scoreboard doesn't look great at the end of the period, but I thought the Wild played a solid period.
Here's my concern, Brandon, and looking forward to the playoffs. When they play a heavy team, it's noticeable. The Minnesota defense is not, your big burly can handle the hitting, and I think it's really important when they face a team that's heavy and likes to really get in on the forecheck. The forwards really got to come back up and help. You look at Goligoski, you look at Dumba, you look at Brodin, you look at Spurgeon, all great puck movers and but not a lot of size. And I don't care how good a puck moving defenseman you are, you have a big guy burling down on you. It makes it really tough.
Yeah, there's been speculation on how the lineup would look once you get in the playoffs, and because of that, I've heard people, you're going to have Middleton and Spurgeon together, and you're going to have Brodin and Dumba together, and you're going to have Klingberg playing because he's on the power play. And for that sixth spot tonight, they're playing Goligoski, and I've seen writers from the Athletic say, "Hey, Goligoski might be the favorite to take that spot in the playoffs." And I guess it is matchup dependent, but I didn't understand because of those worries you're talking about with size. I thought that Merrill, a guy who can kill penalties for you, can play against bigger, stronger lineups. I thought he would be the more likely play in the first round of the playoffs.
Here's the deal. I think a lot of people, they'll say, they'll make an assumption that player A is just like player B and player B is just like player C. And they're all different, right? And so you can't expect a John Merrill to be your puck moving up in the play type of D. That's not his style. And so sometimes players get judged on what they're not. And I think that's a problem. But right, I think it will be dependent upon what type of team you're playing, and that doesn't mean in series one this guy's playing and then we're playing a different style, this it'll suit this player better.
I think I should mention before we move on that you can message us with questions, comments, whether you're listening or watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or Twitch. I can read all your comments and questions, so feel free to ask any questions you want or make any comments. The main topic, I think, is going to be the status of Mason Shaw, who, Pat, I feel for this kid, and I'm not a doctor. I don't know what kind of injury it is. Clearly, when you have the non-contact, you kind of hit your foot that way and you go into the boards. Not a great look. Given his past, it's hard to not think the worst for this kid. And for how many times he's had to overcome torn ACLs, he's had to do it multiple times. He finally, it's a long shot for him even playing full time this year, Pat, to be playing in the NHL. And he does it in such a fearless way. And especially for a guy his size, plays a physical brand of hockey. He was having, a bit of a career year where, hey, this is a springboard for him to play in the National Hockey League for a long time and get a ton of minutes. And to see this happen, not only is it bad if he's missing time for the Wild in the postseason, but just for him personally and all that he had accomplished this year, man, with terrible timing.
I had the opportunity to be down in Iowa, when he was hurt, and his work ethic off the ice and his attitude off the ice was off the charts. And I think, I really think he was an inspiration to a lot of the players down there. Just how hard he worked to get back and how thankful he was to play. When he first came back in Iowa, it was like a miracle. It really was. And he worked and worked and worked and, had such a good year. Last year, they called him up and he fared well and had a good camp. And, it's really sad. I hope it's nothing more than tweaking, but didn't look good.
Not surprising when the goaltender gives up 2 goals. We're going to have some comments. Rusty AF says giving Flower the revenge game was risky. Nate Sween says Flower seems off. The first goal, Pat, I don't think there was anything he could do, and I think Gustafson's given up that goal one timer from that close in, absolutely lasered it and put it in the right spot. The second one,
was he screened or not?
Yeah, it's hard to know sometimes just watching it on television. You're not getting the goaltender's perspective. Clearly, it's a bad angle shot. But that being said, it was in a pretty good spot for how bad of an angle it was. And it did look like there was some traffic in front of him that might have screened him. I think it's a little premature to say, hey, Marc-Andre Fleury's not playing well in this game.
Yeah, I have no comment. Yeah, I agree.
Ben Shearer says the Wild has had difficulty getting the puck deep and the cycle going. What do they have to do in order to get the offensive zone possession?
Well, I think it involves getting your D involved if you can, but Vegas has done a pretty good job. I thought early on Minnesota was okay, getting some pucks in front of the net. You saw Boldy. I don't know if he'll end up getting credit for the goal, but hey, Vegas is a good team, and there's not a lot of room out there when you're playing them. So you just got to keep fighting through it.
The one guy that I thought played really well in the first period, and this is coming off a game in which he made a couple mistakes that hurt you in the previous game, is John Klingberg. I thought he had a very good first period on the power play. He seems to be a little more aggressive, trying to get that shot off. Clearly, he ended up getting the assist off of the shot that hit the goaltender and went off of Boldy and in. He had a good little efficient breakout pass at one point where it looked like he was in a tough spot. Just one period, but I thought he looked good.
Brandon, he's going to be the talker pretty much every game, not just based on his minus 28 coming from Anaheim. It's not going to leave people's heads. We know he's not great defensively. He's going to make your mistakes. And if you can limit those, and that's why, again, does he have the right partner? He needs a partner who knows his game and that understands his game and that knows that hey, I got to be more on the defensive side because this guy's going to take a chance or pinch when he shouldn't, or all of those things. But ultimately, he had something for you offensively. So, you got to weigh that too.
Which is why, frankly, when they made the movement, Pat, I thought they would kind of slide him into the spot with Jonas Brodin. And
me too.
And move Matt Dumba down. Now, Dumba has played well since that moment, so give credit to Matt Dumba. But I kind of thought, man, Brodin's the perfect complement to Klingberg in that he can clean up everything. He's a defensive defenseman. He'll stay back. Whereas now Klingberg has kind of been put with Merrill and put with Goligoski and kind of has not really had a consistent partner.
I think you're dead on. I wish they would do that. I hope they still maybe give it a try, after they clinch or something. Because quite frankly, Matt Dumba with a Merrill or Matt Dumba with that's fine by me. More so. And I never thought I'd say this, but I trust Dumba more defensively than I do Klingberg. Okay.
Go ahead.
No, and so and that's why if you put Klingberg with a guy that is, one of the best in the league, I think that makes a little bit more sense.
I do think, though, eventually that Klingberg might be one of those X factors in a playoff series for the Minnesota Wild. He can give them something they haven't had in a long time, if ever.
Maybe he plays with Brock Faber.
We'll see.
I'm not going down that road tonight.
Yeah.
No.
They're going to have 9 defensemen come playoff.
Yeah.
Night.
Good.
Nate says, any update on Kirill Kaprizov? I've got nothing other than he was at the Wolves game last night, hanging out with Crunch. He was very smiley. It does sound like he will skate at some point. But I've kind of stated all along.
I know you.
I'll reiterate it that I think he'll be back before the playoffs. I don't know if he'll be healthy before the playoffs. It might be one of those situations where playing hurt. And frankly, a guy like Jonas Brodin has been playing hurt this season. You get to this point, they're not all 100%.
Right. That's why you need depth, and everyone will play in the playoffs.
Dan says, is it just me or is we as fans starting to travel really well finally? In Colorado, it felt like a home game almost, and lots of green again tonight. There are certain locations, Pat, it seems like the Wild fans always travel, like Arizona. And
right.
I get they don't have the greatest home fans there, and that's part of the reason. But Arizona, we always have loud ovations after goals. Colorado, the other, it seems like Vegas, they always travel to. I think it's just kind of certain locations, but
and there's fans that are that are from those cities that are big Wild fans, and we see it all the time. But it's great to see, and people love this team, and they should.
Max says 17, 38, 36 need to show up. We talked about this the other night in the Colorado game, that Marcus Foligno is a fine player. He's not a first line player. He doesn't mesh well. And Zuccarello is a good player. He's even better when he has Kirill Kaprizov with him. And there's a reason his stats have gone up once he started playing with Kaprizov. And there's a reason they'll go back down when Kaprizov's not out there. Yeah. The one guy that I think has been pretty solid, regardless of Kaprizov being in the lineup, is Ryan Hartman.
Yes, Hartman's game is really blossomed, and of course, right now their top line is the Boldy line, Boldy and Johansson. That's your number one line right now. When Kaprizov comes back, they'll be the number one line. But there's something to be said for missing a star, and you are missing a star. You're replacing Marcus Foligno for Kirill Kaprizov. Come on, who are we kidding? And Foligno knows his role, and he can't make the plays that Kaprizov makes, and we know that, and he knows that. But he's got to do his best there, in that role right now.
All right, Pat, we got about 1 minute. What do the Wild need to do here in the second period to turn this game around here?
Well, get the momentum back in the game. I thought late in the period that Vegas kind of took the game over a little bit, and that all goes with scoring a goal. And so you got to try to change that momentum up a little bit. They'll be mixing in a guy with that fourth line. Vegas tries to play four lines. I think you gotta meet them. You got to meet their level. And 40 minutes to go.
Yeah, I don't think the Wild need to change a whole lot. I thought they played relatively well in that first period.
Yeah.
Sometimes when you're playing a good team, they
get
just
back, help your D. Get back and help your D.
All right, Pat, you get back and help me out second intermission.
Sounds great. Thank you.
All right, he's Pat Micheletti. I'm Brandon Mileski. Thanks for watching our intermission analysis. We'll be back at the second intermission of this Wild Vegas Knights game. So go Wild here in the second period.